The Deer Hunter didn't just show war, it captured how it destroys the human spirit. Michael Cimino's epic redefined war cinema with haunting realism, emotional rawness, and groundbreaking performances. But behind the screen, chaos, heartbreak, and obsession consumed the cast and crew. What happened off camera was even darker than what we saw on it. These are the secrets that reveal the real story behind The Deer Hunter, and the first one changed everything. Number 1. The scene that never existed. The most iconic moment in cinema history almost never happened. When The Deer Hunter went into production, the script contained no mention of Russian roulette, the very image that would define the entire film and haunt audiences for generations. Director Michael Chimino conceived the idea late in pre-production, believing it was the perfect metaphor for the randomness of war and the psychological torture soldiers endured. Studio executives were horrified, calling it too disturbing and potentially exploitative. They warned it would alienate viewers and doom the film commercially. Chimino refused to budge. He argued that without this brutal centerpiece, the film would lose its emotional core. The tension between director and studio nearly derailed production before filming even began. In the end, Chimino's vision prevailed, and that unplanned addition became one of cinema's most chilling and unforgettable sequences, reshaping the movie's entire legacy. Number 2. De Niro's method to the madness. Before cameras rolled, one actor disappeared into his character completely. Robert De Niro spent weeks working in an actual Pennsylvania steel mill, learning the physical demands and rhythms of blue-collar labor. He insisted on experiencing the heat, the danger, and the exhaustion firsthand. De Niro didn't stop there. He trained extensively with real firearms, perfecting his handling and developing the muscle memory of someone who had grown up hunting. He studied the mannerisms of steelworkers, adopted their speech patterns, and immersed himself in their community. His commitment went beyond research. It became a total transformation. This level of preparation set a new standard for method acting in Hollywood. De Niro's co-stars watched in amazement as he brought an authenticity to the screen that felt lived in rather than performed. His approach influenced an entire generation of actors and proved that great performances aren't just about talent. They're about dedication that borders on obsession. Number 3. Cimino's real-life war zone. Some directors use green screens and controlled sets. Michael Cimino turned production into an endurance test that pushed everyone to their limits. He refused to compromise on authenticity, insisting that every location be real, every condition genuine, and every moment captured without artificial safety nets. The cast and crew filmed in actual jungles and rivers, facing the same heat, humidity, and unpredictability that soldiers encountered in Vietnam. Days stretched into grueling marathons as Chimino demanded take after take, waiting for perfect natural light or authentic reactions. Exhaustion became the norm, and the line between acting and survival blurred. His relentless pursuit of realism left emotional and physical scars on everyone involved. Crew members collapsed from heat exhaustion, actors dealt with injuries, and tempers flared regularly. But Chimino believed that only through genuine suffering could they capture genuine truth. The result was a film that felt less like a movie and more like a documentary of trauma. Number 4. Real bullets, real fear. The Russian roulette scenes weren't just acted, they were experienced. To create authentic terror on screen, real ammunition was kept on set during filming, just feet away from the actors. The presence of live rounds turned every take into a psychological ordeal. Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken insisted on this approach. They wanted the fear in their eyes to be genuine, not manufactured. Knowing that real bullets existed nearby created a visceral tension that no amount of acting could replicate. The sweat, the trembling hands, the desperate eyes, all of it came from a place of actual unease. This dangerous method sparked fierce debates about the limits of filmmaking. Safety coordinators protested, but Chimino backed his actors' decision. The gamble paid off. Audiences could sense something authentic in those scenes, a raw terror that made them unbearable to watch. The fear wasn't just real for the characters, it was real for the actors too. Number 5. Walken's starvation for art. Physical transformation took on a haunting new meaning during production. Christopher Walken isolated himself from the cast and crew, living alone and severely restricting his diet to just rice and bananas for weeks. His goal was to embody the physical and mental deterioration of a prisoner of war. The results were shocking. Walken's face became gaunt, his eyes hollow, and his movements took on an unsettling fragility. His weight loss wasn't just cosmetic. It affected his energy, his mood, and his entire presence on screen. The emaciated figure audiences saw wasn't created with makeup or special effects. It was real suffering. This extreme commitment gave the film its emotional pulse. Walken's quiet madness and visible decline made his character's tragedy feel unbearably real. He later admitted the role took a severe toll on his mental health, but his sacrifice created one of cinema's most haunting performances, a ghost of a man that audiences could never forget. Number 6. Meryl Streep's hidden grief. Behind every quiet scene of strength, real heartbreak was unfolding. Meryl Streep arrived on set, carrying a burden that few productions ever witness. Her partner, John Cazale, was fighting a terminal illness, and she knew their time together was running out. Director Chimino recognized the raw emotion she brought to set each day. Rather than ask her to suppress it, he encouraged her to channel that genuine pain into her performance. Every tender moment, every worried glance, every silent tear carried the weight of real loss happening in her life. The result was one of the most authentic emotional portrayals ever captured on film. Streep wasn't just acting, she was processing grief in real time. Her performance resonated with audiences because it came from a place of true vulnerability. The quiet strength she displayed on screen mirrored the courage she showed in her personal life during those devastating months. Number 7. Cazale's final goodbye. Every day on set carried an unspoken weight. John Cazale knew The Deer Hunter would be his last film, and so did everyone around him. His battle with illness was losing ground, but he insisted on completing his role, determined to leave one final mark on cinema. The production became a race against time. Insurance companies initially refused to cover Cazale due to his condition, threatening to shut down his involvement entirely. Robert De Niro stepped in without hesitation, personally guaranteeing the costs and ensuring his friend could work. The entire cast rallied around him, creating a support system that helped him through each difficult day of filming. Cazale's presence shaped the film's emotional soul in ways no one anticipated. His authentic frailty and quiet dignity gave his performance a devastating power. Fellow actors found themselves giving their best work in scenes with him, knowing these moments were precious and finite. He passed away shortly after filming wrapped, leaving behind a legacy that proved true. Artistry transcends even the darkest circumstances. Number 8. A wedding that never ended. What appears on screen as pure joy was actually a marathon of exhaustion. The wedding sequence in The Deer Hunter took nearly 2 weeks to film, an extraordinary amount of time for what could have been shot in days. Cimino insisted on using real alcohol, real food, and genuine celebration. The extended shoot turned into an endurance test for everyone involved. Actors and extras danced, drank, and celebrated for hours each day, often improvising interactions that Chimino captured with multiple cameras. By the final days, the revelry had transformed into genuine weariness, adding unexpected depth to the scenes. Chimino's method had a purpose beyond realism. He wanted audiences to feel deeply connected to these characters before tragedy struck. By immersing viewers in the warmth and joy of their community, he made the later horrors unbearable. The wedding wasn't just a scene, it became everything worth protecting, making its eventual destruction devastatingly personal. Number 9. The Steel Mill Inferno. The opening sequences weren't filmed on a Hollywood soundstage. Cimino took his cameras inside a real, functioning steel mill where molten metal flowed and temperatures soared to dangerous levels. The heat, the noise, and the danger were all genuine. To enhance authenticity, Chimino cast actual steelworkers alongside his actors. These men weren't performing their jobs, they were doing them, surrounded by cameras capturing their real movements and routines. Every spark, every drop of sweat, every weary face belonged to someone who truly lived that life. This approach established the film's raw foundation. By grounding the story in the honest reality of working-class America, Chimino created a world that felt tangible and lived in. Audiences could sense the authenticity, making the characters' bond feel real and their eventual separation all the more heartbreaking. The steel mill became more than a location. It became the beating heart of their identity. Number 10. Filming in a jungle of nightmares. Thailand's jungles provided the setting for Vietnam, but they also became a genuine trial for survival. The cast and crew faced relentless heat, sudden floods, and diseases that swept through the production. Sets collapsed under heavy rain, equipment failed in the humidity, and filming schedules dissolved into chaos. The conditions weren't simulated, they were endured. Actors performed in rivers filled with unknown dangers, trudged through mud that conceals snakes and insects, and worked in temperatures that left them dehydrated and exhausted. What was meant to be filmmaking became a test of physical and mental endurance. Yet these hardships served Cimino's vision perfectly. The jungle itself became a living character in the story, and the authentic fear and exhaustion visible in every frame couldn't have been achieved any other way. That truth translated to the screen, giving the Vietnam sequences a visceral power that audiences could feel in their bones. Number 11, the stunt that went wrong. Danger on set wasn't always planned. During one of the film's most intense sequences, John Savage's brutal fall into the river went horribly wrong. What was supposed to be a controlled stunt turned into a genuine injury that left him in serious pain. Michael Chimino made a controversial decision. He kept the cameras rolling. Rather than halt production and reshoot later, he incorporated Savage's real suffering into the scenes that followed. The agony visible in the hospital sequences wasn't acting. It was authentic pain captured on film. This approach epitomized how far the production went to blur the line between fiction and reality. Savage's injury became part of the story, his genuine distress adding a layer of truth that no performance could match. It was filmmaking at its most uncompromising, where the boundary between what was real and what was staged dissolved completely. Number 12, the symbolism of the deer. The hunting scenes carried meaning far deeper than atmosphere. Every moment featuring the deer was carefully constructed to represent innocence, moral restraint, and the purity that war destroys. Michael Cimino used these sequences as a visual language of lost humanity. The one-shot ritual became central to this symbolism. It represented control, precision, and respect for life, a philosophy directly opposed to the chaos and random violence of war. When the characters honored this code, they maintained their humanity. When they abandoned it, they revealed how deeply war had corrupted them. Chimino transformed the deer into a haunting metaphor that lingered throughout the film. The animal wasn't just prey, it was a mirror reflecting the characters' souls. Each hunting scene measured how much of their moral center remained, creating a powerful visual contrast between the clean mountains of home and the moral devastation of combat. Number 13, the power behind one shot. A simple phrase became the film's entire philosophy. Robert De Niro's repeated line, "one shot," wasn't originally scripted to carry profound meaning. It was meant as a hunter's practical advice, nothing more. But Michael Cimino recognized something deeper in those two words. The director built the entire film's moral framework around that phrase. One shot represented control in a world of chaos, dignity in the face of randomness, and the fragile boundary between life and death. It became a code of honor that measured who the characters were before war and what they became after. This simple concept elevated the entire narrative. The phrase echoed through every major scene, connecting the deer hunt to the Russian roulette, the innocence of home to the horror of captivity. What started as a throwaway line transformed into a symbol of fate, survival, and the desperate human need for control when everything spirals into madness. Number 14, the day Chimino snapped. Perfectionism reached its breaking point in Thailand. During a crucial river scene, Michael Cimino suddenly halted all filming and ordered everyone to wait. The reason left the crew stunned. A cloud formation didn't match the continuity from a previous shot taken days earlier. Hours passed as cast and crew sat idle in oppressive heat, waiting for clouds to shift into the exact position Chimino demanded. Frustration turned to anger. Crew members openly questioned his sanity, and talk of mutiny spread through the ranks. The production teetered on the edge of collapse over something most viewers would never notice. This incident captured the director's obsession and the toll it took on everyone around him. Chimino's pursuit of perfection bordered on madness, alienating the very people working to realize his vision. His uncompromising nature created masterful cinema, but it also nearly destroyed the production and everyone involved in it. Number 15, the scene that split the nation. When The Deer Hunter premiered, America wasn't ready for what it revealed. Vietnam veterans filled theaters, and their reactions varied wildly. Some praised the film's brutal honesty about psychological trauma, while others protested outside, calling it exploitative and historically inaccurate. The controversy exploded into national media. Critics debated whether the Russian roulette scenes misrepresented the war or captured its spiritual truth. Veterans organizations divided, with some endorsing the film's emotional accuracy while others condemned it for sensationalism. The film became a lightning rod for unresolved national anger. The Deer Hunter forced America to confront wounds it had tried to ignore. The film didn't offer easy answers or patriotic comfort. It showed war as a soul-destroying force that left survivors hollow. That unflinching portrayal split audiences because it demanded they face uncomfortable truths about what had been done in their name and what had been lost. Number 16. The studio's breaking point. Behind closed doors, panic was setting in. Studio executives watched early cuts of The Deer Hunter with growing horror. The film was too long, too brutal, and too uncommercial. They begged Michael Cimino to trim the runtime, soften the violence, and make it more palatable for mainstream audiences. Cimino's response was absolute refusal. He argued that every frame served the story, that cutting the film would destroy its emotional impact. The executives threatened to take control, warning that his stubbornness would doom the project financially. The standoff pushed relationships to the breaking point. In the end, the director's defiance proved visionary. What the studio feared would be a commercial disaster became a critical and financial success. Cimino's unwavering commitment to his vision transformed what could have been a safe, forgettable war film into a masterpiece that redefined the genre. His refusal to compromise became a legendary example of artistic integrity triumphing over corporate fear. Number 17. The song that made audiences cry. Music became the film's emotional heartbeat without uttering a single word. Stanley Myers composed Cavatina, a haunting classical guitar piece performed by John Williams that captured beauty and sorrow in equal measure. The melody was simple, yet it carried the weight of everything the film couldn't say aloud. The piece played during the film's most tender and devastating moments, transforming silence into a language of loss. Its gentle notes contrasted sharply with the violence on screen, creating an emotional dissonance that left audiences shattered. The music didn't explain the character's pain, it embodied it. Cavatina became inseparable from The Deer Hunter, turning into one of cinema's most recognizable themes. The composition achieved what dialogue never could, speaking directly to the heart. It reminded viewers that beauty still existed even in the darkest moments, making the tragedy feel both unbearable and profoundly human. Number 18. The ending that almost vanished. The film's final scene nearly ended up on the cutting room floor. Studio executives wanted to remove the "God Bless America" sequence, calling it confusing, anticlimactic, and tonally inconsistent. They argued that audiences would leave theaters puzzled rather than satisfied. Michael Cimino fought back with everything he had. He insisted the ending was the film's moral closure, the moment where survivors faced what they had lost and what little remained. The quiet gathering, the hesitant singing, it wasn't triumphant or patriotic. It was broken people searching for meaning in the wreckage of their lives. That controversial ending became one of cinema's most haunting finales. The ambiguity that executives feared became its power. Viewers couldn't decide if the characters were affirming their country or mourning what it had cost them. The scene's quiet devastation lingered long after the credits rolled, proving that sometimes the most powerful endings are the ones that refuse to provide comfort. Number 19. The bar that built a brotherhood. Authenticity extended to the smallest details of production. The intimate bar where the friends gathered throughout the film wasn't constructed on a soundstage. Michael Chimino found a real Pennsylvania tavern and transformed it into a central location. He filled it with local residents, not extras, to capture genuine small-town energy. The warmth visible in those scenes came from real community connections. Regulars from the actual bar mingled with actors, creating an atmosphere that felt lived in rather than staged. The laughter, the casual conversations, the comfortable silences, all of it emerged from authentic interactions rather than scripted moments. This attention to genuine spaces created the emotional foundation that made later tragedy so devastating. Audiences felt the bond between characters because they witnessed real human connection. When war tore that community apart, viewers mourned not just fictional characters, but the loss of something that felt tangibly real, a place where people belonged before everything shattered. Number 20. Streep's unscripted brilliance. Some of the film's most powerful moments weren't in the script. Meryl Streep brought an intuitive understanding of her character that transcended written dialogue. Michael Cimino recognized her gift and gave her freedom to follow her instincts, trusting her to find truth in silence and subtle gestures. Many of her tender moments emerged spontaneously during takes. A glance, a hesitation, a small movement. These weren't choreographed, but discovered. Chimino kept cameras rolling during rehearsals and between takes, capturing authentic reactions that revealed vulnerability words couldn't express. Her spontaneous choices elevated her performance from excellent to unforgettable. Streep understood that restraint could be more powerful than emotion, that what remained unspoken often communicated more than dialogue ever could. Her improvised moments gave the film a quiet power that audiences felt instinctively, even if they couldn't identify exactly what made those scenes so devastating. Number 21. The Wedding They Tried to Cut. Studio executives saw a pacing problem that needed fixing. They demanded Michael Cimino drastically shorten the wedding sequence, insisting that spending so much screen time on celebration slowed the film to a crawl. They wanted action, not extended revelry that seemed to drag endlessly. Chimino refused to cut a single frame. He told executives the wedding represented everything worth fighting for: the community, the joy, the love that war would destroy. Without fully experiencing that happiness, audiences couldn't understand the magnitude of what was lost. The battle over this sequence became one of the production's most heated conflicts. His stubbornness proved absolutely correct. The extended wedding made the later tragedy unbearable because viewers had invested emotionally in these people and their world. By the time war arrived, audiences didn't just understand the characters, they loved them. That deep connection transformed the film from a war story into a devastating portrait of loss that audiences couldn't shake. Number 22. The Lost Footage Mystery. Over an hour of finished film disappeared forever. Before The Deer Hunter reached theaters, emotional homecoming scenes and character moments were deleted from the final cut. These weren't rough takes or unused footage. They were completed, polished sequences that Michael Cimino deemed necessary to remove. What happened next shocked Hollywood. Chimino ordered the deleted footage destroyed rather than archived. He wanted no alternate versions, no director's cuts, no possibility of the film existing in any form other than his final vision. The reels were gone, and with them, scenes that crew members still insist were devastating. The mystery of that lost footage only deepened the film's legend. Cast and crew occasionally mentioned scenes viewers never saw, hinting at emotional depths even greater than what made the final cut. The destroyed footage became a haunting reminder that sometimes the most powerful art involves choosing what to sacrifice, leaving audiences to wonder what truths remained hidden in those vanished reels. Number 23. Walken's Private Breakdown. The camera stopped rolling, but the damage remained. Christopher Walken's performance in The Deer Hunter left him emotionally shattered in ways that lasted years beyond production. The role consumed him so completely that he couldn't simply walk away when filming ended. He later admitted he avoided interviews and refused to discuss the film because revisiting those feelings felt unbearable. The character's psychological descent had required him to access dark places within himself, and returning from that journey proved more difficult than he anticipated. The performance that earned him an Oscar also left scars he carried privately. Walken's struggle revealed the hidden cost of truly great acting. What audiences celebrated as brilliant artistry came at a profound personal price. His reluctance to look back at the role wasn't modesty or artistic pretension, it was self-preservation. Some performances demand so much that actors can never fully reclaim the parts of themselves they sacrificed for the character. Number 24. The Oscars That Shocked Hollywood. Nobody expected The Deer Hunter to dominate awards night. When Oscar nominations were announced, the film's dark subject matter and brutal honesty seemed too uncommercial, too uncompromising for Academy voters. Hollywood insiders predicted it would be respected, but ultimately passed over for safer choices. The night proved everyone wrong. The Deer Hunter claimed 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actor for Christopher Walken. When Chimino took the stage, his emotional acceptance speech revealed how much doubt and struggle had gone into the film. That victory redefined Hollywood's understanding of what a war film could be. The Academy had chosen raw truth over comfortable heroism, psychological complexity over simple patriotism. The Deer Hunter proved that audiences were ready for stories that challenged rather than comforted, opening doors for a new generation of filmmakers willing to explore war's darkest realities. Number 25. A Legacy of Pain and Perfection. Behind every frame lay genuine sacrifice. The cast and crew of The Deer Hunter endured physical injuries, emotional trauma, and psychological scars that lingered long after production wrapped. What they created wasn't just a film, it was a document of authentic suffering channeled into art. That sacrifice transformed cinema itself. The Deer Hunter showed that war films could explore psychological destruction rather than battlefield glory. That authenticity mattered more than comfort, and that great art often demands everything from its creators. It influenced decades of filmmakers who understood that truth, however painful, resonates more deeply than spectacle. The film's haunting power endures because nothing about it was faked or softened. Every tear, every moment of fear, Every expression of loss came from a real place. Decades later, new generations discover The Deer Hunter and feel its impact just as powerfully. Proof that when artists risk everything to capture truth, they create something timeless. The Deer Hunter remains a haunting monument to truth and trauma. Its creators risked body and soul to show the human cost of survival, pushing themselves beyond what seemed humanly possible. It proved that war movies didn't need heroes or glory. They needed honesty about what conflict does to the human spirit. The performances, the unflinching brutality, the quiet moments of devastation, all came from genuine experience rather than manufactured drama. Like and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. Tell us in the comments, which moment from The Deer Hunter still lingers in your mind?